some individuals are captivated by enigma, while others pursue peril. As for me, I possess a clear understanding of my desires. I have always been attracted to older men, but not just any older men. I am drawn to those who command attention the moment they enter a room. They are tall, robust, and self-assured individuals who do not feel the need to prove themselves, as their mere presence speaks volumes. Their words carry significance, their eyes reflect a profound depth born from experience, and their touch conveys a sense of decisiveness regarding their intentions. When a man of this caliber gazes at me, truly gazes at me, I feel the impact throughout my being. My attraction to men transcends mere liking, it is a craving. Upon encountering a man I find irresistible, my heart races, my breath hitches, and despite my efforts to maintain composure, my body reveals my true feelings. This was precisely my experience when I met Malcolm. It began with a seemingly mundane medical examination, part of the onboarding process for a new job that required a comprehensive health screening. This was one of those routine checkups designed to assess fitness for work, where they take your vitals and send you on your way. I did not anticipate it to be a memorable occasion, nor did I expect to meet him. The moment I entered the doctor's office and laid eyes on Malcolm, I sensed a shift in the atmosphere. He was precisely my type, tall, easily exceeding 6 feet, with a powerful physique that filled out his white coat in a manner that compelled me to gaze a moment too long. His dark skin, deep brown eyes, and sharply defined jawline adorned with salt and pepper stubble were striking. Then there was his voice, deep, resonant, and imbued with authority, causing my stomach to tighten the instant he greeted me. "Oliver, right?" he inquired, glancing at the chart in his hands before meeting my gaze. I nodded, striving to keep my voice steady. "Yes." His eyes briefly scanned me, not hurried or dismissive, but rather observant, before he motioned for me to take a seat. "Let's get started." I endeavored to maintain my composure, but as Malcolm stepped closer, the scent of clean aftershave mingled with a subtly masculine aroma, enveloping the air around us. With a parched throat, he reached for my wrist, his fingers warm and steady as he assessed my pulse. The mere contact sent a sharp wave of awareness coursing through me. His brow furrowed slightly as he counted the beats beneath his fingertips. "Your pulse is a bit rapid," he murmured, a hint of concern in his voice. I swallowed hard, wishing he understood that I was simply not fond of medical appointments. He smirked but chose not to press the matter, allowing his fingers to linger for a moment longer before releasing my wrist. I exhaled slowly, but before I could fully regain my composure, he spoke again. "I will need you to remove your shirt," he stated, his tone calm and clinical, "to examine your heart and breathing." I hesitated for a brief moment, not due to discomfort, but because I was uncertain I could handle the situation. Nevertheless, I nodded and reached down to pull my shirt over my head, striving to ignore the way my skin tingled under his gaze. The room felt oppressively quiet as Malcolm stepped closer, the cool metal of his stethoscope pressing against my chest. "Breathe in," he instructed, his voice low. I inhaled, my pulse racing in my throat, my skin aflame beneath the gentle touch of his fingers against my ribs. "Good," he said, and I complied again, but this time I sensed his fingers lingering a moment longer than necessary. The atmosphere between us shifted subtly, a flicker of something unspoken hanging in the air. Malcolm maintained his professionalism, yet for a fleeting instant, I noticed a change in his demeanor. His eyes darkened slightly, his breathing altered, and his touch felt less clinical. Before I could contain myself, I released a shaky exhale. His gaze met mine, his expression remaining neutral, yet something palpable passed between us, a shared awareness. In that moment, I realized I was in trouble, and the way Malcolm regarded me before he withdrew, his fingers barely brushing my skin, confirmed that he felt it too. I no longer cared about my job or the fact that this was merely a routine checkup. All that mattered was the undeniable connection we shared. This moment was anything but routine. The atmosphere in the room felt electric, as if an unspoken shift had occurred between us, yet neither of us had acknowledged it. Malcolm cleared his throat and took a step back, adjusting the stethoscope around his neck as if to dismiss the tension. His expression remained calm and composed, perhaps too composed, but I noticed a brief flicker in his demeanor, a split second where his fingers hesitated before withdrawing. He turned to write something on his clipboard, but my mind barely registered it. The warmth of his touch lingered on my skin, and my heart raced. I felt an urgent need to leave before I acted impulsively. Everything appears normal, Malcolm finally stated, his deep voice smooth yet inscrutable. You are in good health. I nodded, gripping the edge of the examination table in an attempt to steady myself. Thank you, doctor. He glanced up, his gaze lingering a moment longer than necessary. That brief connection confirmed my suspicions. I was not imagining this tension, and the realization was unsettling. I forced myself to reach for my shirt, but just as I was about to pull it over my head, his voice halted me. Wait. I froze, my fingers clutching the fabric, my heart racing as I turned to face him. Malcolm set his clipboard aside, exhaling slowly as if weighing his next words carefully. Your muscles are tense, he observed, his tone softer and less clinical. I swallowed hard, responding, yeah, I've been working out a lot lately. His eyes briefly scanned my torso, quick yet deliberate. Mind if I check something? He inquired. The simplicity of the question belied the intensity of his gaze, sending a wave of heat through me. I nodded, go ahead. He stepped closer, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder, firm, steady, and warm. Relax, he murmured, his fingers gliding down my arm before pressing gently against my back. I found it impossible to relax, his touch was too deliberate, too intimate. His palm traced along my spine, following the tension he claimed to be assessing, but it felt like so much more. The sensation of his voice lowering against my skin lingered, accompanied by the way his breath momentarily faltered as I leaned closer. It was clear that this connection was mutual. I was aware of that, just as he was aware that I had left my number on his desk. Lying on my bed, I gazed at the ceiling, my phone resting on my chest as if I were willing it to ring. Then, as if my thoughts had summoned it, the phone rang. Although I did not recognize the number, I instinctively answered, maintaining a steady tone. Hello? A brief silence followed before he spoke. It's Malcolm. I sat up abruptly, my heart racing more than I cared to admit. I attempted to sound nonchalant. I didn't expect to hear from you this soon. I didn't anticipate calling you either, he replied, his voice deep and deliberate, as if he were carefully choosing each word. But here we are. The line fell silent for a moment, filled only with our breaths, until Malcolm exhaled and said, "Come over." It was not a question, it was a definitive statement, and I found myself standing before I even realized it. Without hesitation, I grabbed my keys, slipped on a jacket, and within 20 minutes, I arrived at the address he had provided, a sleek, modern townhouse in a quieter area of the city. I paused for a brief moment in the cool night air, my heart racing, before the door swung open to reveal Malcolm. He stood in the doorway, one hand resting against the frame, his broad shoulders filling the space. He had changed out of his white coat and was now wearing a fitted black shirt and dark jeans, a casual look that still exuded control. His gaze swept over me slowly, as if he were seeing me outside the confines of the exam room for the first time. Have you changed your mind? I asked, my voice steady, though I was aware of the tension beneath it. No, he replied simply, then stepped back slowly, gesturing for me to enter. I complied, and the door clicked shut behind me. The room was warm, dimly lit, and quiet, no television, no music, just the sound of our breathing and the distant hum of the city outside. I turned to face him, but before Malcolm advanced without hesitation, his movements instinctive rather than deliberate. His hand rose, fingers gliding along my jawline before tracing down my throat, applying gentle pressure against my collarbone as if he sought to anchor himself in this moment. You've occupied my thoughts all day, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. I felt a lump form in my throat as I absorbed his touch, his presence enveloping me completely. A slight smirk crossed my lips. Seems that makes two of us, I replied. His lips parted, as if he intended to speak further, but I preempted him, closing the distance between us. The instant our lips met, I was overwhelmed by the culmination of the tension that had been building between us, the restraint he had maintained now unraveling. His hands were firm and unwavering, holding me in place with a promise of permanence. I found myself wishing for that permanence. I pressed closer, my fingers clutching the fabric of his shirt, feeling the strength beneath his skin. His breath was warm against my lips, our bodies aligned, every movement deliberate and unhurried. Malcolm was not a man who rushed, he savored each moment, and I was eager to embrace every second of it. The night enveloped us, the city outside fading into obscurity. In that instant, it was solely about us, and neither of us was holding back. The gravity of the moment settled heavily between us, palpable and undeniable, as Malcolm's hands gripped my waist with a steady assurance. His touch was both grounding and electrifying, transforming the atmosphere into something more profound than mere attraction, something deeper than temptation, a force we could no longer overlook. Each breath I took felt more intense, each second stretching out infinitely, yet we remained rooted in place, suspended between uncertainty and inevitability. But when his lips brushed against mine once more, slow and intentional, I realized there was no turning back. He was not frantic, rather, he exuded a sense of control. He was intentional, the type of man who took his time, fully aware of his desires. His hands were warm against my skin, gliding from my waist to my back, drawing me closer with a quiet confidence that sent a shiver through me. I was unaccustomed to this sensation, to being the one who felt smaller, lighter, and held with such assurance. Yet, with him, it felt right. I could sense the strength in his embrace, the subtle dominance in his guidance, allowing me to feel every aspect of his presence without uttering a single word. My fingers tightened around the fabric of his shirt, feeling the warmth of his body beneath the cotton, the tension in his muscles, and the restrained power that quickened my heartbeat. His breath was warm against my jaw as he exhaled slowly, his grip firm yet never overbearing. His movements were smooth and deliberate, conveying a message that resonated beyond words. I tilted my head slightly, granting him more space, silently inviting him to take what he desired, and he did not hesitate. His lips traveled lower, tracing the side of my neck with unhurried precision, as if he wished to memorize every reaction. My breath caught as he exhaled against my skin, his touch impossibly patient yet undeniably certain, as if he had already determined how the evening would unfold, unhurried by the inevitable. My body responded instinctively, pressing closer, yearning for more, but Malcolm held me steady, his hands firm on my back, keeping me precisely where he wanted me. His fingers traced the curve of my spine, sending a gentle shudder through me, his touch a blend of tenderness and possessiveness. The room felt warmer, the space between us seemingly non-existent, yet he remained unhurried, refusing to let the fire between us consume the moment too quickly. I was not accustomed to this level of patience, to someone who understood how to savor the tension, allowing it to build and unravel slowly. When he finally withdrew just enough to meet my gaze, his eyes appeared darker, imbued with a depth that was both enigmatic and alluring, something I yearned to immerse myself in. His thumb glided along my jawline, his grip both firm and gentle. In that fleeting moment, the only sound I could discern was the rapid thumping of my own heart, synchronizing with the palpable energy that surged between us. "Are you all right?" he inquired, his voice lower, richer, and more subdued than before, as if he already anticipated my response but wished to hear it from my lips. I swallowed hard, my breath uneven, my fingers still resting against his chest. "Yeah," I murmured, my voice barely a whisper yet sufficiently clear for him to comprehend. A slight smirk played at the corners of his lips, a subtle indication of his satisfaction with my reply, as if he had been awaiting it. Without uttering another word, he closed the distance once more, this time with greater depth and certainty. The outside world faded into oblivion, the city, the night, the past, and the future lost all significance. Only this moment remained, and neither of us intended to let go. The night enveloped us, akin to a slow-burning fire that neither rushed nor consumed too quickly, but rather intensified, leaving only warmth and assurance in its wake. Malcolm had set the rhythm, and I had followed, but now there was no room for hesitation or boundary testing. We had already transcended those limits, and neither of us was inclined to look back. His hands, steady and assured, traced every contour of my body, not in haste or uncertainty, but with an innate understanding, as if he had already anticipated my reactions. His touch was not tentative or exploratory, it was intentional, as though he had made a decision about what he desired and was savoring the journey to that destination. I could sense it in the way his fingers pressed into my back, his grip firm yet never overpowering, guiding me with a quiet confidence that heightened the intensity of the moment. I allowed myself to fully embrace it, letting my breathing align with the rhythm of our connection. Malcolm was deliberate in his approach, allowing my body to respond in ways that words could not convey. He did not merely move with precision, he embodied it in every breath, every caress, and every deliberate pause that heightened my desire before he even initiated it. There was no urgency, no chaotic movements, and no superfluous actions, only the gradual escalation of something destined to unfold, something we had both anticipated from the moment our gazes locked in that examination room. Now, here we were, both unwilling to retreat. Outside, the city thrived with the sounds of passing cars and bustling pedestrians, yet all of it felt remote, like mere background noise against the profound intensity enveloping us. The room was warm and softly illuminated, shadows dancing across the walls as we moved in unison, neither of us withdrawing, consumed solely by the weight of the moment pressing upon us. Malcolm's breathing was slow, measured, and controlled, yet I could sense the quickening of his pulse, the slight tightening of his grip on me, and the gradual erosion of his previously effortless composure. I could see it reflected in his eyes, dark and intent, observing me as if he were committing every reaction, every change in my breath, and every response to his touch to memory. There were no longer any barriers between us, no lingering doubts about the nature of our connection, it had already been established. The only remaining course was to allow it to envelop us entirely. Time became indistinct, I lost track of how long we remained entwined in warmth, silence, and an emotion that surpassed our expectations. I realized that when Malcolm finally began to slow, when the fervor of his movements transitioned into something more subdued and profound, I was not prepared to part ways. I could still feel him against me, his presence, his weight, the lingering sensation of his touch, as if he were reluctant to sever the bond we had just forged. His fingers traced gentle, absent-minded patterns along my back, his body still firmly against mine, the steady cadence of his breathing harmonizing with my own.